Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. You have to be either very stupid or high to think that a deaf person shows gang signs. Well, our OP was not lucky enough to meet one in the store. I just can't understand how these people can lack that much awareness and comprehension. So, just for some information, I'm 5'2", 140 pounds, female, and I'm about 60% deaf and can't hear you unless you're standing next to me. A few years ago, I was assaulted in a parking lot and since have learned self-defense. I hate being touched by people I don't know, so I usually end up shopping at night so I don't deal with people getting close to me. I was grocery shopping with my friend after a few stressful weeks dealing with my crazy neighbors. I was in the beauty products aisle looking at my list of things to get. When I'm focused on something, I usually don't pay attention to my surroundings, so I was going around the section picking up razors and other things. Suddenly, I hear a man's voice next to me, and I jump to look at him. G equals this man, F equals friend, M equals manager. G: hello, I've been calling for you to help me for the last 15 minutes. Dude scared the hell out of me and was already rude, so I decided to sign at him and he just got more pissed. G: what is that, gang signs? Where's your manager? I'm gonna have you fired for not helping me get that down. I kept signing at him, hoping to stall some time while I looked for an employee or my friend. Eventually, the dude got really pissed that I kept throwing gang signs at him and stomped off to find my manager. My friend walked over to me and asked what happened. While I was explaining, the guy came back with the store's manager and started yelling again. G: that's her. That's the rude bee who wouldn't help me. Manager: sir, she's not an employee here. She's wearing pajamas, for God's sake. Now stop being rude to customers or I'll have you kicked out of the store. I waved at the manager and turned to leave with my friend when the guy yelled and grabbed my arm, pulling me back towards him. I didn't like that at all and started to freak out. Friend: dude, let go of her right now or I'm calling the police. G: no, I know you work here, so help me. The manager was trying to get him to let go of me. The guy kept pulling on me to come near him, and I just pulled the dude over my shoulder and slammed him on the ground. The manager was stunned, and so was the guy. It was quiet for a few seconds. Friend: Orton won by the RKO. Manager: I'm calling the police. Police showed up. The guy was yelling at the officer to press charges against me for assaulting him and stuff. The officers talked to us, and we explained what happened. As the guy was being taken away by the officer, he looked over at me, and I signed at him, and he started screaming I was throwing gang signs at him. And the officer just goes, "She's deaf, you idiot." IMHO, if someone grabs you forcibly, you have every right to slam their butt to the ground. We're pressing charges against the guy. The manager wanted to make it up to us, but I told him it was okay, he didn't really need to. But he was still nice enough to help us finish shopping and help load stuff into our car. I gave him gift cards to a few places in the area for being so nice. And our second story. Screw you and your juice boxes too. My brother had surgery this summer. His wife works night shift and would have had to take off a significant amount of time to take care of their kids. So since I'm just a college student on summer break and typically love my nieces and nephews, I offered to come stay and help out. They have 3 children. Twin nieces are 10 and nephew is 8. My brother had surgery in late May and I arrived to stay shortly before that. Everything was great at first. I cooked, I cleaned. I know it's strange, but I like cleaning, so this isn't a bad thing. Watched movies with my big brother, helped him get around, baked with the kids, gossiped with sister-in-law. It was awesome. I especially loved cooking because usually I just cook for myself, and it's way more enjoyable to cook for others, at least in my opinion. This is where things went a little south. My nephew's a jerk. I don't know where the sweet little boy that I saw a few times a year and begged his mom to FaceTime Auntie Lily so I could read him a bedtime story went, but he sure as hell wasn't present this summer. I don't care if it's rude to call an 8-year-old a jerk. I call it like I see it, and the kid's a jerk. My brother and sister-in-law warned me he was going to be a jerk, but I didn't believe them. I was wrong, very wrong. There's no pleasing him whatsoever. For example, take him to a movie. Why can't we go to 2? Go for ice cream. Why can't we order another one to take home for later? Go to the carnival. Why can't we drive 3 hours to the super awesome carnival they went to one time 2 years ago? Every single thing we did, he wanted more, and nothing I did was good enough. Now, I know he's a kid and some of this is to be expected, but this was all the damn time. Not a single day went by that he didn't cry or whine about something I did not being good enough. My brother and sister-in-law did their best to intervene when they saw him acting like this to me, but they weren't around all the time. The last straw for me was my cooking. Not to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm a bangin' cook. My nieces are some of the most picky eaters you'll ever see, and even they ask for more of whatever I made. However, there was no pleasing my nephew. One day he wouldn't eat the red skin mashed potatoes I made because they had skins on them. The next time he wouldn't eat my mashed potatoes because they didn't have the red skins on them. One day he wouldn't eat the roasted chicken because the skin was on it. The next time he wouldn't eat it because it was skinless. Even kid-friendly stuff was wrong. One day he wouldn't eat the PB&J because the peanut butter was creamy. Next time he wouldn't eat it because it was crunchy. You get the idea. All summer the kid was a gigantic A-hat. I try not to let it bug me, but it did. One night he even asked me if he could pick the menu for the next night so maybe I could actually cook something he would eat. I swallowed my urge to choke the little crap and agreed. The next night he wouldn't eat because I made him round waffles instead of square. Of course, being a responsible adult, I lead by example and opted to be the bigger person. I let it roll off my back and refused to let it bother. LOL, just kidding. I wouldn't be posting here if that were true. Right before I left last month, my brother and sister-in-law were heading to a major family reunion for my sister-in-law's family. A bunch of her family went in on a giant lake house for everyone. Each family had a set list of things they were responsible to bring for everyone to use. Stuff like salt, mayo, toilet paper, etc. My brother's family were assigned snacks and drinks for the kids. This is where my revenge idea started. The area where they were going was a very popular tourist area. Several places offered grocery delivery. You'd order online and they'd bring it to your home. I pointed this out to my brother and told him that after driving for 5 hours, wouldn't it be nice to just have your portion of the groceries ready and delivered without having to stop at the store? He agreed and asked me to go ahead and put together an order for him. Now, the one thing that jerk nephew was consistent on was what he drank. All day, every day, he refused anything to drink other than a specific brand and flavor of juice boxes. No water, no soda, no tea, no other juice, only those specific juice boxes. My brother and sister-in-law would buy a ridiculous amount of these juice boxes at Costco. The local grocery delivery service had these juice boxes as well, but given the level of douche I was having to deal with, I just plain forgot to order that type. Instead, I ordered a crap ton of juice boxes that I knew all the other kids would like, knowing full well that sister-in-law's no-nonsense, waste-not, want-not mother wouldn't allow someone to run out for other juice boxes when there were already more than enough to go around. According to sister-in-law, the tantrum was epic and her mother threatened to spank him into next Tuesday if he didn't stop. Unbeknownst to me, until a few days ago, her mother also heard him bad-mouthing me to his cousins and threatened him within an inch of his life that he'd best be more respectful to me or he'd have to answer to her. The last week I spent there before heading back to school was quite pleasant. Your mission was successful, and you also steered the kid away from diabetes. Well done. And our next story. Crazy Karen apparently deserves our hotel room. I'm physically disabled. Today, the wife and I were in New York. Nothing special, just wanted a fun trip. Well, after a fair amount of time, I had my cane today. I was in pain, scale from 1 to 10, a solid 15. So we headed back to the hotel and asked if it was possible to check in early, explaining the situation, and the desk worker saw I was about to sit on the floor, tears of pain dripping down my cheeks. The front of the hotel lobby was being renovated, so there were no chairs. By the luck of the universe, the clerk tells us there's a room available. A woman already in the lobby looked up at that and stood up. Now, she was with a small child who was playing on the Switch and didn't even bother getting up as the EM approached the desk. Cast: me, my wife, EM entitled B, and clerk who isn't paid enough. EM: excuse me, you said check-in wasn't available yet. Clerk: well, it isn't, Miss EM, but exceptions can be made if the conditions call for it. OP is clearly in physical distress and needs the room. EM: that whale doesn't look in distress. I just flew here and I'm tired. My son's just about falling asleep. Do you know how hard it is to be a single mother on vacation? What happened to the customer is always right? Wife: clearly is pissed and raising her voice. Boo effing who? My wife needs to take medications and be resting unless you want to call the paramedics due to her back and leg giving out. EM apparently didn't think that was reason enough and started to sob loudly about how she's so jet-lagged and needs the room, and how we needed to think of how a mother feels. No one's budging on this, and finally the clerk calls security to escort wife and I to the room. After sitting in the shower, pain pills, and a long rest, my wife and I went out to dinner. Who was coming out of the elevator opposite us? EM. You know that was nasty of you to scream at me earlier. Do you know how impressionable my child is? We don't have money for a nice place like this, but I splurged to make sure he's happy. Wife. Congrats on the debt. Now if you leave us alone, Karen, I want to go get sushi. EM. My name's Linda. Well, security was called later, but that's apparently because Linda got drunk and left her son in the room for too long. Gotta love New York. Edit. To clarify, there was a large potted plant in one of those heavy-duty planters. She was sitting on the edge of it. There was even a sign asking people not to do that. And our last story. Grandpa and the dead man's land. This happened when I was about 10 years old. My grandpa used to take care of one of his uncles. This man was in his late 70s, and due to an accident involving a machete and a huge blood loss, he was handicapped for life. He wasn't able to communicate or take care of himself, so my grandpa took the matter on his hands and took care of him. He didn't live that far away, so every afternoon after Grandpa came from work, I went with him to visit the guy. He had a huge plot of land on a zone that lately became very urban and developed. After some time, Grandpa wasn't able to look after him anymore, so he decided to take him to a nursing home where he could get the medical attention he required. This wasn't cheap, so he asked for his cousins to chip in some money for the expenses. All of them came with sob stories about poverty and bullcrap, and no one gave a single coin. So my grandpa took the expenses and paid from his own pocket. Not surprisingly, a couple years later, the man died, and my grandpa buried him, again with his own money. Suddenly, all his sons, about 4 people, came to my grandpa asking about the land and what will he do with that. They reclaimed that the land was for them as directly successors, and my grandpa had nothing to do about it. Grandpa was mad, like insanely mad. Never seen him like that. Not only was he still grieving his dead uncle, but also he had to deal with a bunch of ambitious and greedy sons that let his father rot. So he met all of them and proposed to sell the land and share the money. He said that he only wanted back the cost to bury the man and the rest of the money would be given to them. All of them accepted and signed some sort of contract to give my grandpa the rights to sell the land for whatever price he considered better. I'm not that good with measures, but the land was something around 50 meters by 100 meters, filled with trees mostly. He sold that land for something around $200 in the early 2000s. The funeral costs were around $150, so each of the sons got about $10 to $15 in money from his father. They tried to reclaim, to blame my grandpa of some bullcrap, to sue him, but alas, they have signed all the document giving him the rights to sell the plot. Now there's a beautiful housing project in the plot. Sadly, they cut down all the trees where I used to play and pick fruit. We've never seen the greedy sons for good. Grandpa's a good man. Never wanted the land, he just wanted his uncle to rest in peace. Too bad he didn't sell it to you for that $200. That'd really just pissed him off. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.